really want our kids to be successful, and success to us means that they have a healthy church life and they are able to look after themselves both financially and religiously. And it's also something that we hope to give them one day so that they aren't having to necessarily struggle through life to try to figure out how to make ends meet.
I don't think I've ever thought of it as a financial legacy that we're trying to leave behind. So the legacy being like, how will they remember us? Like, did we lead them closer to God? Did we show God's light at all? Were we kind? Were we loving? Did we foster the community the way that we should have? Did I choose to love? Did I choose to do these things? Or did we choose to chase after material things of the world? And so that's what I want our kids to grow up, is this legacy of like, this is our family business. We have pride in something our family has built because of God. Like, we are able to show his love and everything because of him. Just having like that heritage pride without it being prideful, if that makes sense.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Catholic Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Silas. If you've been listening for a while, you know that we are on a mission to understand intimately, not just to know the data points or to know the basic knowledge, but to really know and have wisdom about what does it mean to be a Catholic entrepreneur? What does it mean to be a Catholic who is called to do business in the world? We believe that entrepreneurship is a divine calling. And if you do too, you're in the right place. Before we start, if you have not already, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting player. It'll really help us to get in front of more people organically. Okay, today I'm very excited to introduce to you our guests, Lucas and Jessica Moser. I'm very honored to say that this is actually their very first podcast appearance. So this is a pretty special one. These two, how can I say it? There's just something about these two that really has drawn me into them. And I know they have a different charism than I do, but something about them is just very, very special. They are a married couple with 5 kids. Their oldest is going on 7 and their youngest is 5 months. And they run several different businesses off of their acreage in rural Virginia. The core things are that they make honey and other things that come from bees, and they have a sawmill where they do a lot of different woodworking. They'll actually make lumber. Sometimes they'll do special pieces for friends of theirs. But those are the kind of core businesses. Part of the way they do this is that Lucas still has a full-time job as an engineer, so a lot of the time spent on the business is evenings and weekends. But there's something about this, the way that these two approach life, because the business is in support of that life, not their life in support of the business, not the other way around. And their way of working family into how they do things is also really, really motivating. In general, these two were just inspiring. I cannot say enough good things. I'm excited to eventually get to know these guys more, maybe go out to visit them at some point. But before we start this episode, I do want to, again, thank our sponsor, Our Father Constructors and Associates. They should be your first call whenever you want your church-related construction project to be done on time, on budget, or below budget, and most importantly, built by a Catholic who understands that these properties are meant to be in service of the church for generations to come. To learn more, go to ourfather.us and tell them that we sent you. Also, if you're interested in joining the Catholic Founders Guild, please do check it out. It's awesome in there. We've got it growing pretty rapidly right now. Lots of incredible individuals sharing tips, learning from each other, doing business with each other. You can learn more and join by going to join.catholicfounders.com. That's join.catholicfounders.com. All right, enjoy this conversation with Lucas and Jessica Moser. All right, welcome to the podcast, guys. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing
How
well.
are you?
I am fine as frog here. I last night was a rough night with the baby. She was sick, so it was a long night. Didn't get a whole lot of sleep, but I've got plenty of coffee this morning. So maybe next time I should put some honey in it before we start. But
Yeah.
but I'm excited to have you guys on. We've been actually trying to schedule this for a while, but let's kind of just start from the top. So explain to us a little bit about who you guys are, where you're based out of, and what you're doing, and take your time going through it. You guys got a lot of different things you're doing, so I want to make sure we cover kind of the core buckets.
Yeah, so I'm Lucas. This is my wife Jessica. We started Mosermade, I guess 5-6 years ago. About started off as a hobby, and it's kind of morphed from there.
Yeah, it was all just based out of a need for providing for our own family, and then it went from there. So the sawmill was Lucas providing our furniture for the house and things like that, getting the skill set from his dad, working with him as a kid, and then now we are doing it for ourselves, and we were able to build bee boxes for all of our bees because we have about 50 colonies right now, and we're producing lumber. We dry and cut for other people as well. So being able to do like custom pieces for other people's homes is pretty special. But yeah, that's pretty much the Sawmill and then apiary portion of it.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
it really,
you've got a sawmill and you're making honey. Those are like the core things. But the sawmill has obviously like multiple components to it. But those are the kind of the two big buckets.
yep, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. And by the way, how many kids do you guys have?
we have 5.
5. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm the oldest of 8 kids, so I'm no stranger to large families. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I grew up working for my dad, who's also a carpenter. He makes custom cabinetry, so
Good.
I have an affinity for it. I can't wait to get back to actually doing that again someday, but we'll get there one day. But this is really awesome. So let's maybe back up a little bit. What is tell us the story of starting this. Was this something that you said that, hey, really we just needed to do some things on our own. We're trying to save some money, or was this something you thought, hey, maybe I could build a business out of this? I want to understand your mentality at the origin.
Yeah, sure. It really started as a hobby. I had somebody introduce bees to me, and I thought that'd be really cool. I want to try that someday. And we started with 2 colonies, and it kind of grew from there over the years. And we started getting honey, and we kind of ended up with more than we could use, and like, well, we don't need all of it, so why don't we try selling it? And then the sawmill really came in kind of alongside it, because I like doing woodworking. It was an easy way to get access to lumber, because nice hardwood lumber is kind of expensive,
Yeah.
and we try to be thrifty because we have 5 children, and my wife stays home with them, so it's a sacrifice that we have to make to really choose where we spend our money. And obtaining a sawmill really helped with us being able to build. I mean, you can see the cabinets behind me. This
Yeah.
building, a lot of our furniture in our house came from that. And then it also allowed us to build bee boxes, so it allowed us to scale with the business in a more economical way.
Yeah. That's amazing. And now, so do you still work full time in addition to running the business, or do you have you
Yes.
gone full time on the business?
Unfortunately, the business has not gotten to a point where I can quit my day job.
Yeah.
I don't
It's,
think you would have that anyways.
no,
'Cause
it's also really hard to compete with an engineering salary.
Yeah.
So at least for the immediate future, it'll probably stay that way.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the obvious goal is that we want our kids to help out at some point,
Yeah.
and kind of alleviate the pressure that we feel right now, the kind of the growing pains
Yeah.
that have come alongside trying to scale a business and work full time and raise 5 children.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's easy stuff, man. What are we talking about? That's not too hard. No, I only have we only have one daughter right now, and a son soon to be on the way. And again, like I said, oldest of 8 kids,
Congrats.
so I know a little bit about it, but I'm still figuring it out. The actual experience of it myself. But no, I love this story about the component of just like being frugal and starting something on your own. There's one comment I'll make, a bit of a digression, is that people oftentimes, at least in my generation, they seem to think that certain things in life are requirements. Oh, I need to have this, I need to have that. In reality, many of those things are actually luxuries. And as you guys have proven, like, hey, maybe you can just pick up a skill on your own, and then do something to be frugal, to save money, that you don't have to always make as much money to pay somebody else to do it. And then in your case, maybe it turns into a little bit of excess that's very abundant, and then you can sell to other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say most of everything we do is from like trying to have our self-efficiency going, and then it's just been, like you said, abundant from there.
Yeah. So when you guys, I'm curious, because you didn't set out necessarily to build a business, but once you had a little bit of excess, was it just like, hey, I guess you might as well try selling this? Because you guys have built something that seems pretty like well put together. You've done a very good job of making it like really well done. It's not just like thrown together, slapped together the way I would have done things probably. Like, explain that process. Was it always that way? Like, how did you develop the skills of actually doing business well if it wasn't your intention to start a business?
Right. So our first extraction that we had too much honey for, that we're not like just handing jars off to friends and family, and that's where it started. People just, our friends and family wanted to pay for honey jars, but we printed off like generic labels that had what we needed off from his work printer, and like taped it on the front. Like,
Yeah.
the very first route was very like low key, whatever. Yeah. But the fact that we sold out so quickly, it was like, oh, there's a need here. So that's when we got to like designing and everything else. So our brother-in-law is the one who did all of our branding and everything else. So he's like did all of that originally and drew it all. So we were very lucky to have him to help us along with that. So we scaled upwards in our business, but also scaled upwards in our, like, I guess, branding look with that, because we had the help of, again, more family. That's definitely a theme through us, is everything is family done. Like, he has family that were beekeepers in Pennsylvania. His dad does the woodworking as well. So.
The extractor, which you can see behind me, the maroon thing, that came from a family that we have in Pennsylvania. My I think it's a great uncle kept bees for 40 years, and they were gracious enough to give it to us after he passed away. So it's really cool to have that kind of family, I guess, help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like heritage
the
time.
family affair kind of component of it is very interesting to me because if you it's unfortunately I don't think it's necessarily the default in just society in general, even though society is based upon families. Like most people aren't thinking about life in terms of family and who's there to help you, but you guys have just like helped each other out and worked together because you see yourself, maybe not necessarily like super explicitly, but you subconsciously at the bare minimum see yourself as a unit, including your brother and whoever else is helping out. I'd be curious, as you started doing this, was there ever, you said that your family had kept bees and your dad was a lumber working in working with wood. Was there some component of like, hey, I want to continue on this heritage, or was it kind of accidental, like, hey, I guess I'll just do this, or were there other business owner influences that really kind of led you down this route?
The beekeeping was probably more accidental. I never really, like, I knew beekeeping was in our family, but they lived in Pennsylvania, so we didn't really see them all that often. They just kind of knew about it. The lumber side of it, I grew up watching my dad do it, and it's always something that I wanted to do. I thought it was really neat, and it was something I used to brag to my friends, like, oh yeah, my dad built all of the furniture in our house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that I wanted to do. I guess watching him do it.
And I wanted him to impart that on our children as well, especially like our oldest. He's been running the Bobcat since he was 3 years old. Like just something I want to make sure that they know is have a skill set and something that they've learned from their parents too, how to provide for themselves and then in turn provide for their families and other people.
Yeah. And so when you started this, I'm assuming you did not have 5 kids at the time, correct?
No.
No, I think when we first got bees, we didn't have any children. So
Yeah.
they've grown with the business and with everything else.
Yeah.
So
Now
family.
that's really amazing, and I think again, I'm also anybody who grows up kind of in rural parts of America. I think even today, I'm assuming would have a lot of, especially if you're on a farm or something, would have some amount of that exposure to things that other people might think is crazy, like driving a Bobcat or whatever. I think that this is actually very good because people learn a certain skill set. Now, I'm curious, are you surrounded by a lot of other people where this is kind of the norm of how you do life? You raise your kids in this more, let's call it organic way, or I think somebody has coined the term free range children or something like that. I forget what they call it.
Yeah.
But was this very hard, or were you surrounded by a lot of people who kind of think the same way?
Well, we weren't really surrounded by a lot of people who think the same way. Our families are very supportive, so it's made it easy to be out here. We have noticed that in our area, there are a lot more children or families with small children that have kind of moved out here in the last probably 3 or 4 years. When we first moved out here, it felt like we were the only ones with a small child. And the area that we're in, I think, tends to be an area where people who retire and then migrate down because housing is cheaper. The area is just cheaper in general. So it tends to be a little bit more gray hairs, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Now, I would like to get under the hood a little bit. So, some of it was kind of accidental. You started the business, but what is there more? Can you explain more of the reason why you guys have chosen to do things this way? Because I personally am still kind of figuring out like what amount of city life versus country life do I want to have for my kids? Because I grew up in the absolute middle of nowhere, and now I live in pretty much in the heart of Nashville. So I'm just kind of curious, like your guys' perspective on why you're doing this way, specifically with the businesses. I think you also homeschool, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. So give me some of the under the hood thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I know that Lucas, like schooling for him was not always easy. For me, it was, but knowing that our oldest is exactly like a carbon copy of him, I knew that homeschooling was going to have to be the way we did things because that was the only way that he was going to really learn that well. And he's very hands on, so it kind of lends itself to this kind of lifestyle because a lot of stuff that we do is very hands on. And so he's learning in a way that's a little bit more conducive to him. And then because I was doing it, obviously, their oldest, we were homeschooling all the rest. I don't know. I just feel like this lifestyle, like I said, is just easy to really learn in a hands-on way. I didn't grow up country kind of living at all because my mom loves the city, still wishes that she would go back to live in Boston kind of thing. So it was not part of my childhood. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment, like learning how to navigate that and how to teach that when I didn't grow up with that. But I'm loving like seeing it through their eyes. So yeah, I would say it was once we moved out here, had the land, because that was just kind of the dream. It's like we'd just love to have some land and see what we could do with it. And now that we are doing it and seeing the fruits of it, like I could not have predicted that. Like I would never have said like, oh yeah, I'm gonna live out in the country and we're gonna live life X, Y, and Z way. Like that's not at all what I had envisioned, but it's better, I think, because of that. because like God has just kind of like led us along that way and shown us, I think, what we could make of it. So yeah, I don't know if it was a super conscious decision to do that, but
Any other thoughts on your side, Lucas?
Yeah, the business has morphed into something that we want to be able to provide our children with something that they can, I guess they can grow into. One of the things we don't want to do is just dump a whole bunch of money on, when we pass away or something like that, because that can be a recipe for disaster. So the business is a way for us to inculcate values into them that are important to us, like hard work and things like that.
tending
Yeah,
to nature.
I think business is such an interesting one because, there's I don't know, I haven't probably shared this with you guys yet, but there's a book called Leaving a Legacy by Johann Kurtz. I talk about it all the time. It's one of my favorites. And he talks about the importance of never leaving heavily liquid assets to your children. It should be, physical, like businesses and physical things or land or whatever, because you can use those as actually a way to teach values, right? And I think there's this false idea in modern times that's like, oh, anything that you pass along to your kids, like that's just going to ruin them, right? But that's just a lazy way of looking at it, because it's going to ruin them if you didn't prepare them, right?
Yeah.
And in your case, and you're teaching them from literally like age 0 to be involved in these things and to learn these things, right? So I would like to understand some of the fruits. You talked about the fruits of this life. What are those in your mind? Like, what are the things that, obviously, maybe some financial fruits, but also like with seeing your children be raised in this way, and perhaps like as you can see the difference between them and other people, you might see how their kids are being raised. What are some of the fruits that you guys are most joyful about? Hey everybody, here's a quick word about our sponsors. Our Father Constructors and Associates is a Catholic-owned construction and project management firm. If you're involved in a diocese, parish, school, or religious community, and you've got a building project on the horizon, you need to talk to Our Father Construction. They will help you fund it, build it, execute it, and make sure that the momentum keeps going from concept all the way through to completion. They should be your go-to construction project manager. They will choose the right architects, designers, and contractors, and they'll protect your budget, oftentimes finding you savings where you didn't even know they existed. And, of course, making sure that what gets built actually serves the church for generations, because they genuinely care. They structure and manage projects all the way from $1 to $45 million. To learn more, reach out to ourfather.us or email Christian directly. And I can speak personally in saying, I know Christian, I've known him for a while, he's a very good friend of mine, he's somebody that I would trust with my life and my family. So reach out to Christian, that's Christian at ourfather.us if you have a project on the horizon and you want to make sure it gets done right. These guys will take care of you, and they'll make sure everything turns out right, and all for the glory of God. And tell them Silas sent you. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah. The first one being how much time we get to spend as a family. I feel like I truly get to know my children like way more than, maybe those who public school or anything else, just because we're around each other a lot more often. So getting to know the characters of our children more is just, that's very fulfilling. And then seeing their creativity and the way it takes form. So our daughter has started pressing flowers from around the property, and that's not something I would have like gotten into, but she's obsessed with flowers, and so it's something she started, and now she's selling them herself. So that's kind of like her own avenue. And same with our son, he's doing his own like charcuterie boards and stuff like that because he loves working the wood with his daddy. So seeing their creativity and like what they're really passionate about has been a fruit like I never would have imagined would be so like cool to see. Like it's just amazing to see the world through their eyes right now, and seeing how they view, like I was terrified of bees growing up, but they love them, and they're seeing the community that the bees make, and like how it can pertain to our life as well, the way you work together and you work hard to produce something. I don't know, it's just the kind of fruits that are not as tangible as money and things like that have been really great. I don't know if you would have anything else.
I love that we get to spend the time with our family, and watching them seem to enjoy doing the work alongside us is very rewarding. It's one of the things that keeps me going.
Yeah.
I don't do this stuff just for us. It's for our family that we do it.
Yeah. No, I want to ask more about that. So, I'm at a stage where, my life personally, I've been very motivated to try to build something that kind of changes the trajectory of my family and, create something. And obviously I think, I would be lying if I said wealth wasn't a part of that I hope that creates. But wealth in the sense like what we're talking about, right? Where it's something about much more than just the money. It's more about the freedom, I guess you could say, the freedom to have that opportunity to be with your kids and to build things together and to teach them things. So I'm curious for you, especially Lucas, like how do you think about the grind of, still having a full-time job, but also, doing, I'm assuming like probably do a lot of after hours work once you get home or weekends, right? Coming home and doing that stuff. You're getting to spend time with your family while you're doing it, right? So there's that component, but how do you kind of keep at it and be consistent and be steady on that journey to enjoy the journey rather than just focusing on what the future might be? Because I tend to live in the future a lot, and I don't dislike my life. I don't not enjoy my life, but I spend a lot of time in the future wondering about like when can I get to that future version of what my life could be like, rather than necessarily being as present in the moment. So I'm kind of curious your own perspective.
Yeah, I find it a little bit easier to keep going. One, because I enjoy the work that we're doing, and it probably because it's not a full-time job right now, that it is more enjoyable than it maybe if it was a full-time job. But I love doing the extractions, and when we do the extraction, you kind of see the fruits of all of your labor happen all in one day, because you get the honey comes out, we put it in jars, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is the culmination of all the work that we have done over the last year. But it is a bit of a grind at times, especially when the weather turns really hot. It can be the motivation to get out and actually be a good steward for the bees is really difficult. But my father helps me do it. Jessica helps me do it, and the kids love to come out and do it. So that part makes it easier. Did I answer your question? I can.
Yeah. No, there's also another component there that you're making me think about is in most entrepreneurial or business endeavors, like people do it for the sake of making money, which is the wrong purpose of doing it in the first place. But because you have the family there, I've personally witnessed, right, when little kids want to help with things, right, they're definitely not really helping, right? They're learning. It slows you down, and it's okay, right? But can you speak to your perspective on that? It's like, hey, like this is not, how do you maintain that perspective that we're not doing this only for the sake of making money? Because if I was only focused on efficiency, I would tell the kids to stay in the house, right? Like
Oh,
I would hire other
absolutely.
people. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's yeah. So one of our priorities is that we want to pass this business endeavor on to our children, and you can't really do that without teaching your children how to do it. And especially right now, when they're really curious and really interested, that's the best time to get them involved. And it's our oldest really likes coming out and doing the bees. I think he likes playing with the smoker more than anything. And especially on extraction day, he likes, turning all of the knobs and pulling all of the levers that we have available. But yeah, for us, it's important to teach our children the things that we want them to learn, so that should they want to have this business in the future, it's something that they can step right into.
Yeah. What about your guys' perspective on through this process of like really what you're doing is kind of in some ways like a very artisan thing. It's farming, it's artisan, where there's like this effort and intention that has to be put into it, especially if you're going to make, like you guys mentioned, you make some custom pieces for people on the woodworking side of things. Like how do you try to inculcate understanding of the importance of craftsmanship and doing a very good job where you put your heart into something? And the reason I ask this is mainly because there's been speculation that with the rise of AI and everything becoming commoditized, people will really prefer something that is made by a human, that is made with heart and soul. So I'm just kind of curious your thoughts there.
I'm already finding that because I would guess you would call it the more artisan side of the business. So I make our beeswax candles, our skincare, the wraps and everything. And because it's all hand done and I'm showing the process of that, people are, like what you said, they're really valuing that aspect. And I know like my daughters love to try and help me with everything when I tell them like, we just have to be careful. Like we are not making this for us. We're making it for other people. And with that, we need to take even more care, like, because, we want to make sure that what we produce is a good product, not just, do a half job. We've got to make sure that we put 100% of our heart into it as well, just to make sure it's good for other people. I just feel like there's a good lesson there. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Making a good product.
Yeah, because they're so interested in helping us make stuff, and that they're starting to make stuff on their own. They get some feedback, when their things don't sell, like, oh, why didn't this one sell? And it gives us a way to talk to them. Well, maybe we should have spent a little more time, making it look nicer or some aspect of it.
And this is why Mama takes forever to make, a candle or whatever, because we've got to be extra careful here, extra careful there. We can't just slap a label on a jar because then no one's going to want to buy it. So, and they'll see that because they go to markets with us too. So they can literally see that in person. in real time happening.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that the market forces, teaching them about what is good and what is not, and it's obvious, right? I think most people forget this, but so many of the products that we purchase today are very commoditized. Like they might be done in a way that like it's polished and it looks nice, but it's not necessarily like there's. I don't know. I personally believe that there's some like you can kind of like feel to an extent like the spiritual aspect of did the person on the other side like really care? Did they put love into it legitimately? Did they put love into it? And it's like I'm a very vibes based person, so I'll usually like try to read those things in the moment. But that's a pretty fascinating a lesson there. And one thing I was curious about is do you notice the kids recognizing if there is that openness to feedback, that they don't take it personally, that they realize like, okay, this is not actually a personal affront to me as a person, like they don't want to buy my product, but have they learned this kind of understanding of like self-reflection and improving maybe from a virtue perspective?
Yeah, so my daughter, like I said, she does the pressed flowers, and so she's been doing it at the market with us, and so she'll get feedback like, it's okay, I just don't really like that flower, like not for me to, and they're very kind about it. And she was upset at first, and I just got to tell her, like, not everyone has the same style. Not everyone loves every flower like you do. And so she's begun to realize, like, she just needs to, it's more of a people thing for her. I'm trying to teach her people skills, communication, that kind of thing. Just getting up and talking to people is not an easy thing, even as an adult. So
Yeah,
teaching her that, but also
that's
teaching her, like, yeah, like it doesn't mean that you failed, or like just because this didn't sell, it doesn't mean that you did a bad job. It just wasn't, another person's thing, and that's okay. So she notices if we didn't sell a lot of like wraps that day, I'm like, that's okay. People just didn't want that today, and that's fine. We'll try again another time. Like, I'm not taking it personal, and I think that helps, like seeing that we're okay with that, and maybe it just needs a little tweaking in some aspect or another. So we were doing a different flower with her the other day, and I said, I think these will do better because look, like you made sure that everything laid flat and straight this time, and you took a little extra care with it, and I think that they'll do better because of that. And so we'll see if that happens, and
yeah.
maybe she'll make the connection.
The resilience component too. I'm just like thinking through like all the things I've learned about entrepreneurship after I've been doing it. I thought about and read a lot about entrepreneurship, and I watched my dad do it too growing up. But it's different when you're in it. The things you learn, like, oh man, like I really gotta stick with it. Got to be consistent. You can't get complacent. You can't think that it all pat yourself in the back too much, right? Because God is really the one where it all comes from. So I love this. Now I'd be curious, some maybe perhaps advice from you guys in terms of if you're going to run a family business together, right? Some people say, oh, it's really hard to work with your spouse in a business, or maybe with your kids. Like, can you just explain your perspectives on how you guys go about this, just holistically with each other, keeping your faith involved in it, and maybe even a little bit on the homeschooling side, like educating your kids and homeschooling them through the entrepreneurship stuff?
Yeah, well, it takes a lot of prayer to get through a lot of the business woes. I guess advice, I would say, don't get envious of people around you. We've been at this for 6 years now, I think. So if you're coming into it and you look at somebody else and you see, wow, they've done a lot. I want to get to that point. Being envious can really take a lot of the joy away along the way, because you're trying to get to that point and not really taking it all in and trying to learn. Just trying to run before you can crawl.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at other, bee businesses or other places around us and be like, oh man, we are not at that scale at all. But also, we're running something different. So, like, keeping our heads down and worrying about what we're building ourselves is, I think, a lot more helpful, because when we start to look at other people, that's when it becomes like, shoot, I don't feel as fulfilled right now. But then when you look at what we have accomplished on our own and what we are building, it just brings a lot more joy. Like, we're doing events as well, like getting community together, and we're not just running like, honey and stuff. Like last night we put on a farm to table dinner for the first time, and it was really, really great because we got to meet a lot of community, got to promote a lot of local farms, but there's nothing like that around here. And I don't know, so doing that is helpful, because if we had looked at other people, we would not have ever had the idea to do that. You know what I mean? Like, we never would have, I don't think God ever would have put that on our heart if I was too focused on what, other crafts, were coming out of beeswax, or, what other people were doing with their sawmills and things like that. So yeah, I think keeping your head down, focusing on what God has put in front of you is one of the best things you can do. And as far as working with your spouse, I don't know, I've heard people say that, but we work so well together, I think, because like his mind works very differently from mine, in the fact that he's a lot more analytical. He's like stereotypical engineer. And I'm a percussion performance major, so I'm like music minded and like the crafty side. And so I think we just go hand in hand working with that together. And so instead of butting heads a lot, we kind of just think like, how can we work this together? So it works out a lot in that aspect. So he keeps me in check. I help him when I'm like, that's not going to fly in the audience eye kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think if you have the shared objective, right, and you recognize that this is typically the challenge of, I work in recruiting in the kind of the startup space a lot, and the times when co-founders have issues with each other, it's usually because in general they're competing, right? It's like why is that person the face and why is that person doing all the podcasts? Like I should be doing that, right? And then it's really just like a disunity between the two people when you're supposed to be going towards a shared objective. And in your case, the shared objective isn't just, oh, we're trying to get to $1 billion in revenue. Like we're trying to get to heaven and help our kids get to heaven. And obviously
Yes.
along the way we need to provide for that. So you have this like very clear and true objective that you can perform. Now, on that point of differences though, is that just like natural to you guys that, hey, we've got different skills, we focus on this. Some people really struggle with that and they have that wanting to be wanting one upping each other. Like have you had to learn something about that, or was it just natural in your process of getting married and kind of coming to do this in the business?
I think it really came natural to us. We're very different in how we approach things, and for us that has been a compliment and not something that's been a net detractor. Yeah, so it really just came natural. Yeah, I think God put us together for a reason,
Yeah.
and it really
Well,
shows. I think that we can work well with each other.
he definitely does that. What about the idea of like, do you ever have to really distinguish between business hats and spouse hats? Like, hey, I'm talking to you as my spouse right now versus I'm talking to you as my business partner. If you're a Catholic business owner, you should not be building alone. Join the Catholic Founders Guild at CatholicFounders.com/subscribe. For $10 a month, you can join a group of Catholic founders who are dedicated to bringing the culture back to God. Don't build alone. Join the Catholic Founders Guild today.
I don't know. I feel like it goes together. So like even last night we were talking about a future goal and I told him, I was like, I'm gonna need your help with this because I cannot voice XYZ very well because I struggle sometimes with being very direct with other people, like especially in the business world. I just like to placate a lot. So I was like, I'm definitely gonna need your help. Like, can you please help me? And then some of that takes some humility, right? Like I can't do this whole thing on my own, even though I'm running like this quote unquote like part of the business where interfacing with other people. Like I actually need your help speaking about that because I'm not very good with that kind of like confrontation kind of deal. And so it takes like a little bit of humility, but nothing that I'm like embarrassed to come to him about. It's more of like I just know myself and I'm not very good at that part. And I think even you said the same thing. Like I honestly, like what you said, like, oh, I don't know anything about that. That's going to be in your wheelhouse kind of deal.
Yeah.
So being able to say this is not my area of expertise, like you are going to need to help me with this.
So having shared goals helps, and being humble enough to admit where you're not able to fulfill the particular business need goes a long way.
I mean, this is I haven't necessarily brought this up on the podcast before, but I think this is actually a pretty strong advantage that Catholic entrepreneurs have, is because if we're Catholic, we should be going to confession regularly, which requires self-reflection, right? Which requires the ability to recognize where I was wrong. And if you can have that in entrepreneurship in general, even if it's solo entrepreneurship, there's like such a such a benefit to that. And then of course, inside of marriage and inside of having business partners, you know, what happens when there is a conflict in terms of one of you thinks that, hey, in terms of the business, I think we should do this, and the other one says, no, I don't think we should do that. How do you go through that part?
More of like almost like a pros and cons. I feel like we've sat down like I really want to do XYZ, and so he'll be like, okay, if we did, then we have to give in, on this other thing or that thing. Like he comes at it very logistically, and I think that helps me think it through a little bit more. Also, he's the leader of our family, and so I kind of looked him as the leader of our business as well, especially since he does a lot of the legwork, the physical legwork. So I look to him for that for sure. So I don't feel like we've ever had like a, I don't know.
But we've never had where we come to disagreement and then can't get past it.
Yeah.
So we're very open to hearing each other out and then weighing what's best moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. This is you guys are really inspiring me. I knew I was going to enjoy this, but this is better than I thought. One thing I don't know, maybe this is just me projecting on the situation, but it seems as though part of the core reason that this is the case is because, again, it goes back to this point. The point of the business is not to, you're probably not, sitting up all night thinking, oh man, how can we get to the next $1 million in revenue? Like, that's not the point of it. Like, the point is, how can we provide for our families and build something that, it's an opportunity for us to spend time together with as a family. It teaches our kids things, teaches them skills, and then there's also the component of we can live our faith while we do this, right? So I'm assuming that plays a very large role in it. Like the point of where you're trying to go will kind of dictate the way you do it, and because you're not trying to just say, hey, we're aiming for $1 billion or whatever. Maybe you'll get there someday, but that's not the point, right? That's not the objective, right?
I don't think we ever sat down and had like a financial goal. Like,
No,
we want
not
to be
really.
at this amount of, like, we have never, I'm thinking about now, I don't think we've ever done that.
No.
It's more of like, how can we progress the business, and like, how many bees can we take care
Yeah.
of if we want to accomplish like building an apitherapy hut? Like, what would that look like on a timeline, kind of thing? It's more of like small goals of what we want to be able to provide our community. How do we get there versus like a financial point? So
We kind of measure it in we have a goal, and then we try to execute to get to that goal. And usually our goals are in the instance of the honey business, building this building was one of our goals. So like, okay, we need to produce a certain amount of honey so that we can have enough money so that we can build this building and we don't have to extract in our kitchen anymore. It's not like you're absolutely right. We're not thinking like, oh, we've got to get $1 million this year. It's like, well, we'd be really nice if we had this. What do we need to do to get to that point?
Yeah. So how do you, on the finance question then, how do you go about financial like planning in terms of growth of the business, if at all? And is it more just focused on, okay, we need to make sure we manage X, Y, Z in order to keep the profitability of the business so that we're not like all of a sudden like losing tons of money?
yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep focused on it. You can't give money away because you can't run a successful business if you're losing money. So yeah, it's very much at the forefront of our operation, but it's not the focus.
Mm-hmm.
We try to make sure that we make enough money that we can invest back into the business to help it grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So I
this
think,
is good.
yeah, with every like market and stuff, we make sure we mark that down. Like, how much did we pay to be there? How much revenue have we made? We're very particular about like where we're spending our time. One, because our time is valuable, right? Because all of our kids can't always be at every market. So, and we've started doing them separately now so that he'll stay home while I do a farmer's market, so that we can actually spend the time where he needs to be, running the sawmill or being at the bees, and I can use that time being in front of people, which is what I prefer not to do. So yeah, it just kind of like figuring out a way we can spend our time will be the best way that we can also make money. Yeah, it would just make more sense. So.
Now, what about the homeschooling aspect? Do you kind of approach it from a perspective of, hey, they'll learn things as we go, like with this, or do you have a sort of curriculum in mind, and then you try to like integrate that or teach that through some of the business components or through running the things you guys are doing?
So as far as we have like our own curriculums that we use for schooling, and then on the weekends is typically when we do a lot of our business stuff. So probably after this, we'll be getting into doing some more things. But yeah, it's pretty much what happens is we send everybody outside. We all work together. If I'm inside, it's usually because our youngest right now is only 5 months old. And so he can't be out with the bees or anything out as much. But then there's the learning aspect. So any kids that do stay with me inside, they're learning like, yeah, we still have to make the home. We still have to do other things. We're not just, sitting in here chilling. But yeah, so we follow the curriculum, and then they're learning whatever they're learning outside with our projects. So it's not like, okay, today we want to make sure that we learn about a certain type of tree. So like, let's go do that. But if it does lend itself into the curriculum, like they did learn about bees and other insects in one of their lessons, is like, okay, so y'all remember when we looked, we saw the queen, she was kind of in charge, and how the workers looked different. And so they'll remember that because they've already been exposed to it, kind of a thing. And like we have a creek nearby, so they were understanding when they were learning about pond ecosystems, like, okay, so you can see, just down the property when y'all talk about that little creek down there. So just seeing it in real life and relating it to that more than trying to make a curriculum based off of what we're doing. I feel like they get a little bit of a broader spectrum of things that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. I really like you guys. This is so much fun. I gotta come visit. I gotta come visit and see what you guys are up to. This is awesome. I would assume that in some cases you have 5 kids and the youngest is 5 months, right? So in some cases you probably notice that some are much more drawn to like the actual like physically doing things versus the schooling, correct?
Yes, definitely. So, again, our oldest, Ford, he's 6. He'll be 7 soon. So he's definitely more all about the physicality of it. And I do feel like he learns because he comes and tells me stuff I don't know about, equipment or about the trees and how the sawmill is working. I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I believe you, buddy, because I don't know, but he's, he's very educated himself on that because he wants to know how to work it. He wants to make sure that he can do it. So he's very like independent in that way. And I've noticed our other son, who is 2, is kind of following in his footsteps in that way. But the girls are more into like the artsy, crafty version
Yeah,
of it. So I would say we honestly have like little mini me's around everywhere. That's
that's
kind of how
awesome.
that's working.
Now, how do you guys? You mentioned the importance of prayer through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. Like, what is your how do you work prayer into the daily life and the weekly life around like ensuring that the faith is really truly front and center for you and for your kids?
Yeah. We do, that's part of our homeschool is prayers. So we open up like every morning, we're doing a saint of the day. We've got like they call it their Jesus book, but it's basically like the catechism for Catholics, but in a much more, watered down version. And so we're doing that. And whenever we do business things, I feel like they're always hearing like, oh, wow, look what God did. Like, thank goodness, like God provided this for us. It's just kind of part of the conversation they're hearing in their daily life. And when we do have our typical day, like throughout the week, we do our homeschool in the morning. And then I'll tell them like during their rest time or at nighttime, like, all right, mama's going to go to the honey house to work on this, or I'm going to be working on this inside while y'all play. You're welcome to help me. Or, this is something I have to do by myself because it's either, too dangerous or whatever, too fragile. So I don't know, they're kind of seeing it happen around, but it's not the focus of the day. The focus is to make sure like we have our time with Jesus and we have our schooling done. And then everything else happens like after hours. So usually during rest time or nighttime. So
That's awesome. And what about feast days? Like, do you guys have a particular way of like picking certain feast days that either have been things that you grew up with, or that you guys have chosen? Hey, this is like, I don't know if it's a patron saint of keeping bees, but there should be. Like, this is a special day. Like, explain to me some of that part, because I think that building those traditions, other than just the daily, in and out stuff, like special days and making that important will help your children retain the faith. So, what do you guys do on that front?
yeah, so that's actually something we're learning together because neither of our parents did a lot of that growing up. So it's something we're starting to learn for ourselves as well, like trying to delve deeper into that. We have done a couple like different feast nights where, I'll print out a little menu and then we'll make stuff like literally feasting. But like for St. Valentine, so he's, saint for bees, for beekeepers. Yeah, which is right around obviously Valentine's Day and then right around my daughter's birthday. So there's just a lot of celebrating that time of month anyways. And our son was born that time of month this year. So we didn't get to do anything this year. But last year we were like, all right, guys, like St. Valentine, like we read about him. We did a little extra like stuff with our schooling that morning. But it's definitely something we want to build more into and learn more about because I feel like even though we're cradle Catholics, we're like still baby Catholics in a lot of ways, just because we're learning more and more through friends and other family who are really diving deeper into the faith as we get older. So.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's such an interesting thing that our faith has infinite number of things we can like always go deeper in our spiritual understanding, but also the actual like nuances of the faith of the feast days and the calendar year. I really like it. I think that's something we need to retake as Americans. I grew up in the Latin Mass community, and it's kind of like much more obvious than what I've noticed now with a lot of the. I go to an English Mass, and it's just very different. It's not as emphasized necessarily, and I think that we should retake that because it's something that it can really unite us in a lot of ways more than just the 4th of July, right? And Labor Day and Memorial Day, right? Wait, more than just the American holidays. But you mentioned earlier that you guys did this dinner, this the farm table dinner, and you said something about how you focus on how can we serve our community. Can you just explain more about your perspective on community, like what it means to you, and why do you have that focus? Is there a particular reasoning behind that?
Well, like Luke said earlier, we moved out here kind of a little lonely is what it felt like. There are not a lot of other families. And so it's also harder to make friends in your 30s. And so I really wanted that out here. So it started off with a couple like girls' nights that we had up here in the honey house. We did like a few watercolor paint nights and honey tasting combo nights up here, and it went well. And so I was like, I would really love to focus that in the rest of our community, build that out a little bit more. It was something I was seeing as everyone's trying to get a little bit healthier, have like truer foods and things that are actually good for your body, not just like healthy in the moment, I guess, but things that are like not sprayed or not toxic in any way at all. So that's why I did the dinner, because there have been people searching for that in our community. Like, what farm can provide this? Where can I get this meat or these veggies that are not sprayed? And so the whole point of the dinner was to provide education on, these are farms in your area. These are places you can go to learn these different skill shares, just all these different sources so that people could go and find those after the dinner while enjoying food made from those people as well. So having that community grow because of something we put on is just really important, because again, it can feel a little lonely when you're trying to do it all yourself, especially if you, like for me, having a lot of kids throughout the day by myself, like I'd love having a good support system. So I don't know, through the business, I feel like we've kind of built that a lot with the community that we're building.
Any other thoughts on your side, Lucas?
No, she really kind of handles all of that kind of stuff. It's not really my wheelhouse. I tend to stick to more of the back work, the back breaking labor and the
Yeah.
business side.
I think this is the most he's ever
Yeah.
been on camera. So
Nice. Hey there, quick interruption. Before we get back to our guest, let's talk about stewardship. A lot of the capital allocators and investors who listen to this show tell me that they want to put their capital to work supporting other Catholic businesses. The problem is, finding those builders has always been incredibly difficult. That is why we launched a dedicated investor newsletter over at catholicinvestors.co or catholicdealflow.com if that's easier to remember. When you subscribe, you aren't signing up for a fund, an investment platform, or any kind of advisory service. It's simple. We publish a regular newsletter cycle that shares strictly factual, unhyped business overviews and metrics from active Catholic-led ventures that are looking for capital. There are no sales pitches, no transaction fees. It is a passive digital bulletin board delivered straight to your inbox so you can do your own independent vetting. If you want to see who is building in the ecosystem and seeking capital, go to catholicdealflow.com and join the newsletter list today. All right, back to the show. No, I think this is fascinating. So I just want to, I believe we've brought this up a time or two on the show in the past, but something that's fascinating to me is that there's this in the startup world, there's this thing called product development and like product managers, right? What they do is they just go talk to customers and understand what they need, and then they build things to sell them, or they make different features of the product or whatever, especially in software. But in your case, like you just have community, and you've built this community, and you know the people in your community, so you know what they want, you know what they're asking about, and then you're like, how can I serve them? So you come at it from a perspective of how can I serve? And I think that in general, the point of life is really how can I serve God? And you can serve God through serving your neighbor, through serving your spouse, through serving your children. And this focus on other, not focus on self, I believe is the key to a lot of the peace that it seems you guys have. Like, again, I don't really know you. I definitely need to come visit you. I'm going to make this happen. We'll come sometime. But it's just very evident that there's a certain peace that you guys have in what you're doing. And I'm assuming it has to do with part of that, is that you've rightly ordered your life. And I think it's very hard for many people, even Catholics who are entrepreneurs, to approach things this way, because we're oftentimes plagued with ambition, and not in a bad thing. I think ambition is a very good thing to have. It has to be properly ordered. But in your case, you guys seem ambitious, but not in a way where it's like, that's the thing that sticks out to me. The thing that sticks out to me is like the peaceful living and the choice to just do things in a way that's focused on the rightly ordered life. So I guess I'm just what's the Gen Z term? Oscar might help me out with this. Glazing right now. I'm like very, very, I love what you guys are doing, but this is really cool. I think that community aspect, understanding your community and doing things for them with an intention to serve, it also has benefited you financially, right? You've been able to do these things, and the community understands. They probably also support you, right? They're probably excited for your success, and for all you know, there's probably going to be, you've only been at this for 6 years, right? If you do this for 3 more decades, like I can't imagine the types of collaborations you have with other people who want to start a business. Maybe there's things that you guys really can't take on because you just don't have the bandwidth, but you can support them, and there's just this this fruitfulness that comes out of it, right? A rightly ordered life has a sort of fruitfulness that comes out, not only with your own family, perhaps financially as well, but also just the benefit to the community, because so many people in America are very isolated and they want community again, but they're seeking for somebody else to build it for them rather than going onto their neighbor's door and saying, hey, I'm Silas, nice to meet you, like we should be friends, right? We live next to each other, we should probably do that. So I'll pause there. I want to kind of wrap up on a last couple of big points here. But what do you guys think about legacy and with your kids? Because you've mentioned that, hey, we want to be able to provide this for them. Can you just walk me through the nuanced perspective of we're doing this for the sake of them? We're not trying. You've already mentioned if they're interested, so you're not trying to force them to do this. But also, legacy can sound oftentimes like it's associated with money, and some people say, oh, you can't focus on that if you're Catholic. So walk me through your perspective of legacy and kind of your hope for the future.
Yeah. We really want our kids to be successful, and success to us means that they have a healthy church life and they are able to look after themselves both financially and religiously. And so the I guess the easier one is to help them financially. And for us, this business has been a way for us to instill values that are important to us. And it's also something that we hope to give them one day so that they aren't having to necessarily struggle through life to try to figure out how to make ends meet.
And like you said, the whole legacy part, again, is not, I don't think I've ever thought of it as a financial legacy that we're trying to leave behind because we're so small. Like, I don't feel, I mean, maybe one day, but I just don't think that that's something we're focused on because it's not. Like, it's not on the forefront of our brain of, this is the goal. So the legacy being like, how will they remember us? Like, how will other people remember us? Like, did we lead them closer to God? Did we show God's light at all? Were we kind? Were we loving? Did we foster the community the way that we should have, kind of thing? Like, that's the legacy I think about. There's a song I had stuck in my head all the time as a kid, and the line was like, I want to leave a legacy. How will they remember me? And it was just always in my head as a kid. And so when I think of legacy, that's more of like what it is. Like, did I choose to love? Did I choose to do these things? Or did we choose to chase after, material things of the world? And so that's what I want our kids to grow up, is this legacy of like, okay, this is our family business. We have pride in something our family has built because of God. Like, we are able to show his love and everything because of him. And just having like that heritage pride without it being prideful, if that makes sense. And like that's the legacy I think that we're trying to achieve here.
And I wonder, there's obviously the component of, I think, not to get too philosophical, but there's a lot of people now, especially young men who don't understand who they are. Like, this idea of identity is not something that is easy to understand, because I don't think necessarily a lot of fathers in the 21st century help their sons understand that identity, right? And you can see it even in the life of Jesus, right? It's like he knows his identity and he draws it from the Father. And in some cases, like, your story is fascinating because you had the beekeeping business in the family before they did that. Your dad was a carpenter, and there's that sense of identity that you can pass on. It's not to say that they have to make carpentry their core,
Right.
thing, that's how they pay the bills. Like, in your case, obviously you're an engineer as well, so you have this kind of like two different things as well. But there's that continuity of like, hey, we do this other thing, right? We keep bees, we build family business, we build this life around a well-ordered, God, family, and then taking care of ourselves financially. We build this well-ordered life, and think about great grandkids maybe for you. Hopefully they're still doing something of this nature, right? Financially
Yes.
speaking, regardless of how they are financially speaking, there's that sort of like that continuity you can give them and help them understand that Catholic identity, and then also that ability to do things identity, where they can help provide for their families, for their community, etc. So I've got a book I'm going to send you guys after we're done here, but there's you guys are doing some really amazing things. So let's unless you guys have any other key topics that you wanted to cover, or things that you want to share about running this business, we can then move on to rapid fire.
I think the main thing is, I know for anyone else, especially moms who I think might feel quote unquote like stuck at home, we have a village of people helping us. So I don't want anyone to ever think like, oh my gosh, how are they able to do that all the time? Like, my mother-in-law comes at least once a week to help watch the kids so I can work up here. So all I have to do is come down, feed the baby, and go right back to work. So I've got like at least one dedicated day. His dad is here almost every weekend helping with things. And my parents help out a lot as well. Like they come to every extraction. They're always asking for ways they can help. Like my mom was let me use her Cricut and stuff so I could print stuff for the dinner. Like it's not something I could ever do alone or that he could do alone. And I always emphasize that, like, people are asking, like, how do you do it all? Like, we are not doing it all. And we have that village. And I think that's super important. I feel like I'm seeing a movement of people trying to get back to that. So I'm really, really hoping that that actually takes place in America because I think it's really important.
Yeah, the sense of interdependency I think is interesting because Americans typically are so focused on the individual and like, oh yeah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to do your own thing. If I made my money, I'm not going to give any to my kids because I could do it, so therefore they should do it too. I think it's such a short-sighted and incorrect way of looking at things because we are obviously interdependent, like we are fully dependent on God, right? Obviously. And then within our communities, like we help each other out. And there's benefit that we receive from that. We learn how to care for people. We actually can see the humanity in people who are willing to receive help, right? I think about this a lot where it's like the homeless person you might see in the corner, you could ask yourself like, oh, that's such a terrible thing. But in reality, like that person actually, like, what is the purpose of their life? I don't know exactly, but it's probably in some ways to affect the hearts of other people, to maybe melt those hearts that are hardened by the things of the world. So let's wrap up with some rapid fire, and then we'll go from there. We'll let you guys get back to work. So, are there any specific scriptures that really inspire you guys, especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint? But it doesn't have to be from that standpoint.
The mustard seed story every single time, like I don't know, it's crazy to me that faith the size of a mustard seed, that has always stuck with me even as a kid. And so I go in everything with the business, like if I just have a little bit of faith and just put forth, like, I know nothing can magically happen, so obviously I have to do work myself, but like just doing that and then trusting him with the rest. Sometimes I have to wrestle with that, but then when I see it happen, like when I do trust, it's like, oh my gosh, like of course, like I could never have done this on my own in my own vision. Like this was totally God. Like again, like the event that we pulled off last night, there was no way I could have done that if I hadn't just trusted and be like, okay, yeah, you've got this. Like I just couldn't have done it. So that's always stuck with me whenever we run into an issue, like we're gonna have faith, it's gonna be okay. And I think he has a default of never worrying, which stresses me out sometimes.
I wish I had that.
Yeah, I was like you talk about peace. I don't know that he's ever been worried about anything in his whole life is how it feels. So he balances me in that way, but it's so much easier to say, okay, like God's got this. I can do what I can. And then after that, like, like it's all up to him. And so having that faith has brought a little bit of that peace, I think, and is, I think, one of the reasons why we're able to be fruitful in the ways that we have.
Yeah, I'd echo that same one. You don't need a whole lot of faith. I mean, all God asks for is just a little bit, and so we try to do our best to give him as much as we can.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we would be where we are if it wasn't for the faith that we had in God to help us.
For me, the mustard seed, I love the mustard seed scripture too, the parable. But I think the coolest part about that is how it can grow into a sturdy tree where I think he says birds can dwell within, right? And I don't know who the birds are in the story, what that's supposed to mean, but it's like this little thing can turn into something sturdy, something that is stable and actually provides like a fruit and a home, right?
I like to think the birds are children and future grandchildren and things,
Yeah, exactly. And then who is an entrepreneur that really inspires you and why?
Gosh.
Honestly, it's my friend Elizabeth. She runs Aramis Home Goods. It's a Catholic home goods shop. We met a couple years ago because she moved down from Alaska, and seeing not just the work she does, because she does amazing work with all her home goods as well, but the education that she provides from a Catholic standpoint. Like I have learned so much through her, and I think she's one of the reasons I've really tried to dive back down into Catholic faith, is because she's so forthcoming with all her, she's just a wealth of knowledge, and she's kind about it. Like she's not judgy, like, oh, you didn't know that and you grew up Catholic, like how did you not? Like she is just, like I said, she's just so sweet about it. And then watching her work that into her business has been incredible. Like I love watching her do what she does. So,
anybody for you, especially Lucas, or same?
I don't know if I have one specifically. For me, the business has been more of an organic thing, and I've never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur. To me, it's been like a really fun hobby that's also pays for itself.
Nice, I like that. No, that's That's totally all right. I think some people also forget that the saints in a lot of ways are entrepreneurs, right? They're just not necessarily building, for-profit entities. But speaking of the saints, who are some of your favorite saints?
St. Valentine because the beekeepers, or excuse me, he's the patron saint of beekeepers, and for me, St. Joseph because the provider of the family, and one of the things that we're trying to accomplish long term with our business is to provide for our children.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with Mary here. Like the amazing mother. Like I look to her for everything. Sometimes, well, I call on St. Anthony a lot, not just for finding things physically, but finding like, please help me find my patience right now. Please help me find my ability to stay awake right now. Like things like that I'm just struggling to deal with. So yeah, those two are the ones I call on the most.
Nice. And what is some of your favorite devotions?
Favorite devotion.
I have necessarily a favorite.
No, that's all right. They're all good, right? So you can't go wrong. But that's all right. No, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys doing this again. I can't say enough positive things. I'm very inspired by what you guys are doing and the way you approach this. I really hope that many people will watch this and think to themselves like, how can we imitate that? Whether or not we're going to build a family business together, I think that's besides the point. I think that there's so many lessons that people can take out of here, and also lessons that people who are building tech businesses can take out of here. There's so many things. So I appreciate you doing this. Where can people go if they want to order some of your products or learn more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we've got our website, Mosermade VA from Virginia.com, and that's where all of our stuff is. We're also on social media, so Mosermade_VA is our handle.
I think we're on Facebook and Instagram, not on TikTok, I don't think.
Good.
No, we're on
good.
TikTok.
Oh, yeah. We're on TikTok.
You're on all of them. It's so much work, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we are on YouTube too for like our longer length stuff, like beekeeping videos and stuff. So yeah, we're kind of a little bit everywhere. I'm not the best like social media person, so managing that is its whole beast. So
Yeah.
I just do a little bit where I can.
Yeah, I think it's again you can make it work without it. This is the thing that people forget is like they oftentimes get really wrapped up, especially if they're doing some kind of consumer facing product where they have to get all this likes and all this stuff. It's like, no, you don't really have to. Like if you have something good, like you can do a little bit here and there, but there's so many. Anyways, I love what you guys are doing. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm excited to see more as you guys continue to grow. I'm assuming you're probably going to start other things. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
Probably.
And hopefully it'd be very fascinating for me to know you guys as your kids grow up too, to see how this kind of like takes shape. So I thank you guys for doing this, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. After listening to this, I am curious, who is the one person that comes to mind that you think would enjoy this episode in particular, or enjoy Catholic Founders in general? I'd like to ask you a favor to send this episode to that one person. This is the way we grow this is really through relationship. We're very old school here. We obviously have technology at our disposal, but really the way we do this is through individual relationships, through us getting to know you, through other people getting to know other different Catholic entrepreneurs in the scene, and helping each other grow together by kind of sharing episodes like this around, discussing it, asking each other, how can we be more like that? How can we integrate the faith better? In this case, maybe, how can we really integrate our family life and our work life? One thing I'd like to ask you is to let us know your favorite part or favorite takeaway from this episode. There's a few ways you can do that. You can either drop a comment in the Substack comments of the post, or if you're in the Catholic Founders Guild, you can go to the content discussions channel and just kind of offer some ideas or some takeaways there. The main thing is everybody perceives the content differently. So hearing from you how you viewed it or what stood out to you can be a really good way for other people to learn different things about the content as well. And if you're not a member of the Guild and would like to become one, well, please do so. You can do that by going to join.catholicfounders.com. Now, as for me, there's two things that really stood out to me from this conversation. And that is, number one, their disposition towards money. In general, the money itself is in service of their family and their business, right? The business is not in service of creating money. The business is not in service, or their lives are not in service of the business, but the money itself goes to help them grow their family. They built that building that they were talking to us in. And the way they view that really changes the way they do business, I believe. I think there's something substantial about that. So I've been thinking about this and reflecting on this a little bit since recording this. I think you'd find some value in that too. Number two is that running a family business is actually a really interesting way to get a lot more quality time together with your family. Obviously, it's not always that way, but the way that they have structured their lives is their business is in support of that family. It's around the family, and the kids are involved in it. And it actually ends up leading to a lot of positive outcomes for them. So consider these kind of two things for you. Is there any way that you can reorient the way you run your business, to make it make the money in service of the business or the business in service of your family. And, if there's anything that's kind of like tugging on your heart, that's a good place to start. Think about what that might be. What is the Holy Spirit calling you to do to change about how you run your business, or even just simply your disposition towards it. Now, before you go, I do have one big ask. If you are a Catholic who is building a business, and this could be, a solo business offering some sort of service, whether you're a tech company, going traditional VC route, or you're a brick and mortar storefront, or anything in between. If your core goal in life is that you want to get to heaven, and you know that entrepreneurship is kind of the path that you will walk in this life, that the path to heaven for you involves entrepreneurship, then I'm asking you to join the Catholic Founders Guild. We are building out an incredible resource pool and network of people with the same exact mentality. People who want to get to heaven primarily. That is their core goal. Their core goal is not to get rich or to get famous, but they're trying to get to heaven, and they know that entrepreneurship is the way they can do that. Some of them do entrepreneurship because it's the way that they can provide for a large family. Some do it because it gives them more freedom to be, not a corporate monkey. So there's a lot of different amazing people in there. We learn from each other. We hold each other accountable, do business with each other, and pray for each other, most importantly. And we have this price at $100 a year or $10 a month, so anybody can afford to join. Once you get in, you'll see the value of it. Again, we're not trying to get rich off this. We just make enough money really to pay my one employee. I don't personally take any money out of this at the moment. So anybody can afford to be part of this. All you have to do to learn more is go to joincatholicfounders.com. You can learn more there, and then you can also upgrade to a paid subscription. And if you do so, Oscar or myself will be in touch. And one more big shout out to our sponsor, Our Father Constructors and Associates. If you are building or involved in some way in the construction of a church-related project, whether that's a school, a monastery, or a church, or a remodel project, reach out to Our Father Constructors and Associates by going to ourfather.us. They will make sure that your project gets done on time, on budget, or under budget. And most importantly, these guys understand that these properties are not just projects. These are things that are going to serve the church and the faithful for generations to come, and they treat it like that. So go to ourfather.us to learn more and tell them that we sent you. Thank you all for tuning in today. God bless you. Happy building. And don't forget that entrepreneurship is a divine calling, and you were called to it. So lean into it. All right. God bless you guys. See you next time.